I would like to take 2 ticks to tutor you in the term to toot one's own horn. It is a strange phrase. It is a logically inconsistent phrase. Tooting your own horn has an opposite number, and that is to be hoisted by one's own petard. To be hoisted by one's own petard actually makes sense. I mean, it is antiquated language. It was coined by Shakespeare, but a petard is a small bomb. So to be hoisted by one's own petard means to be blown up by a bomb, blown into the air. It's a good phrase. A bomb, normally meant for someone else, blows up in your own face, lifts you high off the ground. Ashton Kutcher peeks out from behind the curtain. You've been hoisted. Great expression. I love it. But a horn is not meant for someone else to play. The expression, toot one's own horn, should instead center on a situation where you're forced to operate for yourself a device that was meant to be operated by another, right? So a more sensible alternative would be, hey, listen, I don't mean to hold my own ladder. Or, look, I'm not trying to cut my own hair over here. Or, listen, I'm not trying to tuck myself in at night. Or, far be it from me to hand start my own prop airplane. Or, I don't want to self-operate a 2-handed cross-cut saw. Or, I'm not one to spot myself while bench pressing. Or even you can stick with the musical if you want. Hey, I'm not trying to play dueling banjos as a solo. And another thing, speaking of the musical, ever think of Louis Armstrong in this situation? How does Louis Armstrong humble brag about his own promise? Can't say anything about not tooting his own horn. And toot, really, toot? Toot? Did Miles Davis toot? Did Dizzy Gillespie toot? To toot one's own horn is a low form of self-aggrandizement. In fact, it should be more accurately seen as a form of self-midsizement at best.
Now, Pesce does know where the phrase tooting your own horn comes from. It comes from a king. King enters a room. There's trumpeters. There's fanfare. Others toot the horns for the king. Tooting your own horn in that situation would be very, kind of pathetic. But Pesce says today, those are not the horns we think of when we think of horns. The phrase does not hold, and he called for a moratorium, or if you will,
a moratorium.
All right. So, one more, right? On a Monday, just after an outbreak of the Ebola virus hit, serious story, right? Pesce was talking about how the news had been covered on television. Over the weekend, the Sunday talk shows had been full of talk of a killer virus, maybe out of control. Was the public at risk? People were asking this over and over. And Pesce was parsing out what was said and what was not said.
George Stephanopoulos was interviewing Dr. Tom Frieden. He runs the CDC. And I'm going to use the opportunity to play something that we sometimes play, talk show karaoke, wherein I assume the role of a guest on the talk show. We'll have the host ask the question, and I'll answer the question how I wish the guest would have. Let's go to George Stephanopoulos' question.
And Dr. Frieden, as you know, a lot of anxiety here in the United States about the spread of Ebola, whether we're taking an unnecessary risk. A tweet that Donald Trump put out just the other day, he said that the U.S. must immediately stop all flights from Ebola-infected countries or the plague will start and spread inside our borders. Act fast. How do you respond to that?
I'm glad you asked, George. First, a little bit about myself. I, Tom Frieden, have a master's degree